We are all aware of certain diseases that affect whole communities, but did you know that there's a deadly disease spreading out across Australia right now? The chytrid fungus is killing amphibians all over the world and has been in Australia since the 1970s. It's believed that the deadly chytrid fungus has caused the extinction of at least 2 species of Australian frog before we even knew the fungus was in Australia. Frogs are a source of food for dragonflies, fish, snakes, birds and other things, and the frogs themselves prey on insects like flies and beetles and mosquitoes. Mosquitoes cause the spread of devastating diseases like Ross River virus, Murray Valley encephalitis, dengue fever, and of course, malaria. Frogs produce a wide range of skin secretions, many of which have significant potential to improve human health through their use as pharmaceuticals. We need frogs. The chytrid fungus affects frogs by infecting the keratin in their skin. Now, frogs have a very thin skin because they're not able to absorb all the oxygen they need from the air with their simple lungs. So they absorb oxygen through their thin skin as well. Parts of their skin are thickened with a protein called keratin. This keratin is the part that can become infected by the chytrid fungus. The spores of the chytrid fungus are waterborne, and studies have shown that the spores are able to survive in water for anything up to 6 weeks without even being on a host amphibian. The fungus spores themselves have a tail-like flagellum that helps propel them through the water, but of course they also can be moved from one place to another simply by being pushed along by the stream as it flows. No one's really sure where the chytrid fungus originated, but it does appear to have come from southern Africa before spreading to the rest of the world. The African clawed frog can be a carrier of the chytrid virus, but somehow seems to resist the disease, so it doesn't actually die from being infected by the chytrid fungus. There's a very interesting story about clawed frogs and pregnancy tests that happened before the 1970s. You might want to ask me about that later. The chytrid fungus was first noticed in Queensland in 1993, but with further research it was found that actually the chytrid fungus had probably been in Australia since the 1970s, and within that time had already killed at least 2 species of frogs. One of these frog species is the gastric brooding frog. It's an extremely unique frog that broods its eggs in its stomach, and from there they develop into tadpoles and then onto frogs before popping out, fully developed. I was wondering if the chytrid fungus could affect the cane toad. My hope was that it may be a silver bullet for the cane toad population. As I looked into information about how chytrid fungus may possibly infect cane toads, I discovered that the chytrid fungus actually only survives well in temperatures below 24 degrees and above 4 degrees Celsius, which means that cane toads in the Northern Territory are not going to be affected too badly by the chytrid fungus, unfortunately. So, as I researched, I discovered that chytrid fungus, unfortunately, is not going to stop the spread of the cane toad.
It's not that easy being green.